truth and time go hand in hand. So that's fine. Today, you think I'm a liar. You think that I'm not telling the truth. I'm dishonest, whatever. Let's see. Just give us some time. Let's see where this comes out in the end, right? Truth and time go hand in hand. So that's fine. I can sleep at night because I know I'm fighting for the truth.
Alex, thank you so much for coming on Gen Z Unplugged. We interviewed you in Scottsdale, Arizona. I believe it was just a few weeks after the assassination of your boss and dear friend, Charlie Kirk. And so it was a very just somber and honestly a heartbreaking interview just to hear, of course, your reaction to hearing the news of Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And so, it was a different kind of interview, of course. And we got to hear a little bit of your story, of course, into the health world and into podcasting and working for Charlie to begin with. But now we have amazing news. You are engaged. You're getting married. Tell us about this, how this came to be, how you met your now fiancé, and you guys are getting married soon. That's all we can say is you're getting married soon. Tell us about how you guys met and your story.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get to be here and talk about this. This is just it's such a sweet season to be in and be engaged. I met him two ways, through mutual friends and also because he shouted me out on his Substack. So for a few years, multiple people that I guess knew him, that knew me, have been trying to set me up with him, but I had no idea. So these were people that, I'm good friends with, but I was like, I don't know if you know me well enough to set me up with a guy, or they would be reaching out to me and I'd already be dating. I'm like, sorry, I have a boyfriend right now, or just things like that. Like the timing was always wrong. And so finally then, a couple years pass, and then this guy has a health Substack, and he's writing about something that I must have covered on the show, and says, something. Alex Clark is a health and wellness podcaster that I really admire. And then in parentheses, he wrote, and who I'd really like to take on a date. And so several people in my audience follow his Substack, and people were screenshotting that and sending it to me and saying, do you know who this guy is? Because I think you guys have a lot in common, and look how cute, he just asked you out. And so I thought, well, yeah, it's cute, but he had no social media, because I saw his name and I Googled his name, and he had no social media. I had no idea what he looked like. I just was like, well, this is cute. I'll shout him out on my Instagram story for doing this because it was a cute gesture, but I wasn't taking him seriously about going on a date, right? So I just posted on my story and I just said, well, if anybody knows who this guy is, tell him I thought this was very cute, like that. Well, I get 100 DMs from people from the political world, from the Maha world, from the homeschool conservative world, who are like, oh my gosh, this guy is the best. He comes from the greatest family. You guys have everything in common. I can't believe I never thought of this before. You have to date him. And I'm like, what? And then the people that had been trying to set me up for the last couple of years were like, you moron, this is the guy who we've been trying to set you up with. And I was like, you've got to be joking me. So it was just very funny. And he gets my number. He calls me, and I actually had to come to DC where we're filming this. And so I was like, well, he asked me out, and I said, here's the deal. I can either go out with you tomorrow, or it's got to be a week because I have to go to DC for work. And he was like, I'll take tomorrow. So we have our first date, and really the rest is history. We had our first date. I was out of town for a week, come back. The weekend that I'm back, we go on 2 more dates. And on the 3rd date, he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I just was like, what do you mean? I don't even know if I like you. You don't even know if you like me. What do you mean be boyfriend and girlfriend? Don't we have to go through a talking stage and all this other crap first? And he was like, no, I know exactly, I know what I want, and I don't want you dating anyone else. And so I was kind of unsure about that, but I was thinking in the back of my head, because I didn't know how I felt about him. I was like, well, this is just too soon. I'll say yes because technically on paper, he's everything that I've been saying I want in a husband. But to be fair, I can always back out of this. You know what I mean? If I'm not into this, in a couple weeks, I'll just be like, hey, sorry, this isn't working out. So that was in my head.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course we ended up falling in love, and then now I'm engaged.
Okay.
So yeah, we were engaged within, thank you. We were engaged within 8 months, I think it was. So yeah, everything just went really well, and loved his family, meeting them. He loved my friends and family, meeting them. And that's the story.
Well, congratulations. I'm so excited for you guys. And I kind of want to hear your mindset, I guess, because I don't know how old you are. And I don't know.
I'm 33.
Okay, 33. What has been your mindset, I guess? Because, I mean, you've been dating for, I don't know when you started dating, but probably high
Yeah,
school-ish.
since I was
Yeah.
15.
So you've been dating for over a decade at this point.
Yeah.
You've wanted to get married. You've wanted to start a family for a while, I would assume. How has your mindset been? Like, what has been your perspective? Because I know so many young women, I mean, myself included, I'm 19, but so many young women who are 25, 26, 27, some 30, getting closer to their 40s, and they're like, I'm never going to get married. I'm going to die an old maid. Like, I want to get married. I want to have a family. I mean, what was I'm assuming it probably wasn't always, rainbows and sunshines for
No.
you, but
I did a whole speech at our Turning Point USA Women's Summit last month or in June of this year. And I talked about this. So I didn't always handle my season of singleness well. I don't think I always handled my season of singleness in a godly way either.
Mm.
There were absolutely moments where I was crying like, why isn't this happening for me? This is unfair. Why is God punishing me? I don't understand why I'm not married yet. I've done everything else right. Why isn't this, so obviously I'm a human being. I've gone through that, but I also realized meeting Vance, I understood why God had kept saying no. And so I think when you're in the middle of it, you don't understand the no's. It's a lot of God saying, trust me, trust me, trust me, and you're tired of waiting. But if God would have given me what I had been begging for when I had been asking for it, before now, I would have ended up with the life I didn't want in a multitude of ways, whether because of who the guy was, or because of me, because it was before I was, bought in on all the health stuff. I would have had fully vaccinated kids that are going to public school, and, I had, and also living off fast food because I didn't know how to cook and I didn't care about health and I didn't know anything about health. So
Yeah.
I had to totally change my life to become the woman that would have been right for Vance.
Yeah.
And, Vance had his own stuff to go through and grow up with, of course, like everybody does. I mean, so God knew the right time for us to meet together, meet each other, come together, start a relationship. And so in hindsight, it's funny because then you do understand the different doors that were open and the different doors that were closed. I see the same thing when I look back at my career, how I didn't understand why certain things were happening and doors were closing and doors were opening. And now it all makes sense. Like I was like, well, what is, pop radio, which is how I started my career. What does that have to do with politics?
Yeah.
Now I understand all of it. And that's a whole nother, podcast conversation we could have. But I had talked about this in my Turning Point speech, but there's a meme of Jesus taking this teddy bear from a little girl, and she's saying, but God, I like that one. And he says, trust me. And behind his back, he's got like this huge, giant teddy bear, basically, even bigger, even better, but she can't see it.
Yeah.
And so he's saying, I need you to trust me. This is why I'm taking this from you. And so that is really representative of like how I felt my whole single season. And so I do understand. And I understand the pain. I understand the hurt and the heartbreak and wanting that more than anything. And so I'm just saying, pray through it and keep becoming the wife and the mother that you want to be before you are a wife and a mother. Keep working on that. Keep learning as much as you can. Like I said, I didn't even know how to cook or whatever. In the last 5 years, I've learned all of that stuff. I didn't know what kind of baby food I would have wanted to give my kids. But in my single season, I am interviewing all of these experts on parenting and marriage and health. And I'm learning all of that now, because when you take the positive pregnancy test and you've got 9 months till that baby comes, that is not the time, let me tell you, to start cramming in all of this information and trying to figure out what kind of mother am I going to be? What pediatrician do I want to see? What kind of shots should I give my child, if any? Those are not the questions you want to be asking with 9 months till the clock is over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have the time now. You guys have the time now in this season to spend time reading all those books and listening to all those podcasts. Hopefully mine is one of them, but whoever's it is, and enjoy it. And I had fun, getting to do all that kind of stuff. And every single one of my married friends with kids would be like, oh my gosh, Alex, I wish that I would have done what you're doing. I met my husband early, but like I didn't have that luxury then to learn all this stuff. Like you're going to go into motherhood and marriage, honestly, knowing so much more. I don't know everything because there's so much that you learn on the job, so to speak, right? I don't know everything about being a mother. I'm not a mother. And I don't know everything about being a wife. I'm not a wife. But I will learn. But there's a lot basic stuff,
Yeah.
basic ideas that you can say, okay, going into it, I have an idea of certain things that are going to be important to my family.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of stuff that is okay. You don't have to wait to become a wife or a mother to say, I don't think I want to vaccinate my children, or I don't want, I want to focus on, as much as I possibly can, feeding my kids real food, or I want my husband and I to be discipled by an older couple at our church. Like, those are things you like, because when you start talking about this kind of stuff, and I definitely have those trolls that message me, they're like, well, you're not a wife or a mother, so you cannot have an opinion on this. I'm like, this is common sense stuff. I don't have to have had an abortion to know that abortion is wrong.
That's right.
Right? We don't have to own a slave to know owning a slave is wrong. It's like, some of this stuff is just common sense, and then there's a lot of little things that, yes, you do learn once you become those things. So I'm just excited. I think I have really had fun learning in my single season, and I have so much to learn in my married season, and hopefully, someday soon, God willing, in motherhood too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you mentioned this because, I've noticed this even going to all these conservative women's events. Obviously, a lot of these young women are involved in policy. They're involved in the public square. They're showing up to school board meetings. They're very involved. Many of them are going to college. They're pursuing a career in politics or health or whatever it may be. But to be honest, that's not really their heart. Like, their heart is, I want to be a wife and a mom. And you see that when they go up and they ask all these questions, it's, I want to be married. I want to be married. Like, how can I find, a good husband? And of course, they're enjoying what they're doing, but they really want to get married and have a family. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because that is the time that they can be preparing to be a wife and a mom.
And I think the left likes to twist when you go to a conservative women's conference and there's a lot of talk of being a wife and a mother. They like to twist that, like saying that's the only acceptable thing for a woman to do. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, even at just our Turning Point conferences that we put on, and then the conference that you guys have put on here today, that I spoke at, you've got people in all different seasons of life doing all sorts of things with their life. Yes, we had stay-at-home moms talking at Turning Point. We also have people that have held public office. So, you've got a spectrum of people. But your worth is being a child of God. It's not in being a wife or being a mother or being a career woman. It's none of those things. It's being a child of God. And so I think that's first and foremost the most important. But I think it's biological and it's innate in a woman to want those things.
Yeah.
And the problem with the feminist movement, that the left projects, is telling women that you don't. It's actually a lie. This has all been programmed into you to want these things. No, men and women are different. And the truth is, not all women will want to be moms, and that's fine. I'm not saying it's a requirement. What I am saying is that the majority, I mean, statistically speaking, of women do want to become moms. And so when you are graduating high school and you are going into college, it's thinking about your career choices with that in mind.
Yeah.
So if okay, a goal of mine is to become a mother, maybe, and maybe not, but maybe you will choose not to become a paralegal whose hours and workload and schedule is not necessarily very conducive to motherhood. Maybe you're going to decide to be a nurse who can have a way more flexible schedule, and you can work a lot before kids, and you can also go down to part-time or, only a few days a month or whatever when you do have kids.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain careers that are going to be more conducive to motherhood than others. And I don't think there's a crime in admitting that. And I think that's just something that's important to keep in mind, because 65% of women, once they enter the workforce, will decide to either quit completely or go down to part-time once they have kids. Yeah. They all want to stay home with their kids or have more time with their kids. And so if you have that in mind, okay, which career path or which company or which corporation or whatever is going to allow me to do that when that time comes, statistically it will. So it's just having that in mind. Yeah. And if it doesn't for you and that's not what you want to do, that's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Well, not to shift gears, but I have noticed this online, and this kind of, I guess, ties into the whole marriage part, because you mentioned people will come at you and say, well, you're not married, you don't have children, how dare you talk about these issues, which objective truth applies to everyone, regardless of your age, ethnicity, or your current status in life. But you get a ton of backlash on no matter what you talk about, whether it's health. I've noticed you talked about the equal protection movement, which I 100% agree with you. I do a lot of work with Seth Gruber and the White Rose Resistance, and I'm very grateful for your voice in the, I guess, pro-life fight. This is very principled, right?
Thank you.
But you've received backlash from everyone, and anyone from the abolitionist side to the pro-life, organizational side to, of course, working for Turning Point and all the conspiracies and all of the ideas of how Charlie was assassinated or Erica is this or that or Turning Point. I mean, the list of accusations and name calls that you get or whatever it may be. I mean, you are just being attacked every single day, no matter what the topic is, what you post on X. You're a feminist. You hate women.
It's so weird to me. Like, literally within the same day, I'm being called a feminist by people on the right, and then I'm being called like I'm too far right by people on the left. It's very weird.
A misogynist too.
Yeah.
You can't catch a break. And I'm just curious because you are receiving pushback at an even greater scale than maybe even like the average concerned Gen Zer or just concerned patriot is getting. What is your message to people who maybe they're getting involved in the fight? They're starting to post about what they believe in online. And the people that they thought would be on their side, which is in your case, I see this so often, the people who you would probably least expect to come out against you. You assume that they would agree with you on such a principled idea, are calling you all of these names or, threatening you or whatever it may be. What is your message to, I guess, the young people listening, but just people in general that feel the whole world is almost against them after speaking up about what they believe in?
Truth and time go hand in hand. So that's fine. Today you think I'm a liar, you think that I'm not telling the truth, I'm dishonest, whatever. Let's see, just give us some time. Let's see where this comes out in the end, right? Truth and time go hand in hand. So that's fine. I can sleep at night because I know I'm fighting for the truth. That's why I've spoken up and I've called out the administration when they've done things I don't like this term, and I've called them out when they've done things that I've loved. Because I cannot go to bed just being a shill for a Republican president just because they're Republican. Sure. And when my kids ask me, well, Mom, when you were working at Turning Point USA, at that time, you had a lot of influence to do different things. Why didn't you say something about this? Whatever this is, it could be anything. Could be pesticides, could be, I don't know, whatever, immigration, I don't know. But or the pro-life issue, I don't want my kids to say, why didn't you do something? Like, what was the point of that? Was it just to get fame and glory for yourself? Was it just to get to talk to famous people and cool people and brush shoulders at parties, at the White House? I just couldn't live with myself. Yeah. I would rather just give up this job completely than not take the time that I have to influence for really good, important things. Not everything as a conservative is going to be popular with all conservatives. Obviously, nothing is going to be popular that I stand for Democrats, but I'm talking about within the conservative movement. There are going to be people who push back on you for certain ideas and issues that you feel really strongly about. And there's a lot of that with the MAHA movement, because a lot of these issues like pesticides and chemicals that we're spraying in our food, water, and air, and to all kinds of things, vaccines, whatever it is, these were all typically liberal fights. The left was who was having these conversations. It wasn't the right. So, we're bringing this conversation into the fold for the first time in history amongst conservatives. And so there's a lot of pushback and a lot of confusion about what this stuff is. Does it really matter? Are voters really ready for it? Guess what? Maybe voters aren't always ready for something. That doesn't mean it's not right.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who say, well, we're not going to be able to win elections with that idea. I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap. We lose, then we lose.
Yeah.
But I stood for the right thing. And I think that pro-lifers or conservative, there's a lot of things that we have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations with our elected officials about, or with different, pro-life organizations or different conservative organizations about, what are you standing for? What are you fighting for? Is this just we're just doing the same thing? It's similar. The Democrat Party is always telling Black people, you're never going to amount to anything in this country. Yep. You're never going to get ahead, right? This is why we need Black Lives Matter, because it's so hard for us. It's well, why do they have to keep saying that? Because they have to keep getting Black people to vote for them, to fight for this made up thing, which is that it's, it's impossible to have any sort of life or freedom as a Black person in America. It's made up stuff. And anyway, that's my soapbox. Put that up.
No, and it's true. I mean, and that's the problem. In the conservative movement have played identity politics, just like the left, on a variety of different topics. And I've seen this over and over and over again. And it should concern us that these people, it's like, why, if you say that you believe these things, why do you not want to treat it as such? You're almost concerned for their own soul in a sense, because you're like, are you bowing to money, to fame, to popularity, to opportunity? Or do you actually care about the truth and saving this country?
I mean, yeah, you've got people in the conservative movement that disagree on, whether or not, we should, that it was a mistake legalizing gay marriage. You have people that disagree in the conservative movement and the pro-life movement on IVF. Should IVF be a way that we're promoting growing families and bringing babies into the world? There's so many topics, and this is why I love politics. To be honest with you, it's fun. I mean, people are like, politics are boring. I'm like, I don't know what you've been watching, maybe CNN, but it's not boring.
Yeah.
It's every day there's a new interesting conversation and something thought-provoking to sit and ponder of, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? Is this true? Who says it's true?
Yep.
And that is true. That's true free thinking that we should be promoting within our party. And if anyone tries to tell you, whether it's people in the White House or people in your local GOP group or whatever in your state, well, that doesn't belong here. That those sort of ideas or those sorts of conversations or topics don't belong in the conservative movement. We reject that.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm sure we could talk about this for hours.
So good. You're so good and so talented. You're like one of the best question askers. Seriously, I love talking to you.
Oh, well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us on Gen Z Unplugged. How can people find you and keep up with your new exciting journey now getting married and
marriage? I'm so excited. We're getting married. Real Alex Clark on Instagram and Yo Alex Raps with a Z on Twitter. Listen, don't ask. I was like in 8th grade, made that screen name, made my Twitter a few years after that, and then I cannot figure out how to change it to say. Oh, I know what it is. Real Alex Clark is taken by someone else, and like, what else am I going to use? So I just stick with Yo Alex Raps with a Z on X. And then Culture Apothecary is my podcast. You can listen to that anywhere you get your podcasts. It is, I'm really proud of this show. It's top 10 health and wellness podcasts in the world. Top 10 on Spotify. You can look it up. You can fact check me on the health charts. And we release new episodes every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And so every episode is different. It could be, how to mill your own flour, to unpacking the childhood vaccine schedule, the teen vaccine schedule. I just did an episode on that, like mono and all the sorts of things they try to get you guys to get. And then I don't know, it could be relationships, dating and relationships. This is just all over the place. So if you're not interested in one episode, you're bound to be interested in another.
All right, Alex. Well, thank you so much. Next time we'll have to hear you rap for us.
Oh, Lord. I'll spare the people from that.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.